All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV, More Than Meets the Third Eye. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah, and this is your spiritual vitamins for the day. Okay, so let me put up this right banner. All right, so let's get ready to get into it. Now, let's see who's in here. Stacy, Alice, Nessie X, All Hell No, Jonah. All right, Emma's blessed. Jane, Curly Girl is in the house. All right, shout out to all of my Stardusters in the chat and everyone tuned in to the Queen. Let's get ready to get into it. Get those lights up. Hey, Vanessa, we the people. So, with that all being said, let me make sure my audio is good because I did unplug my microphone a little while ago. Okay, there it looks like it's fine. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about 7 traits that you'll see exhibited from people who are still carrying around baggage from childhood. Okay, trauma that they may have experienced during childhood times. Maybe they have abandonment issues, different things like that. Maybe they didn't have validation or positive reinforcement, which we talked about before, during their childhood and their formative years. So we're going to talk about some of the characteristics and traits that these people and behaviors these people engage in. And with that all been said, hey, Juju, Emma's blessed, Curly Girl. Okay, so with that all been said, let's talk about it. And I'm also going to be showing you some videos of a few people from spiritual TikTok and their thoughts on this issue. Okay, so let's talk about it. People who haven't let go of emotional baggage from childhood usually display these 7 behaviors as adults. Now, many adults unwittingly and unknowingly carry around emotional baggage from childhood, which often reveals itself through various behaviors. Now, this burden, if it's not addressed, can affect the individual's personal growth, relationships, and that's just not intimate relationships. It can also be friendships, okay, how you relate to different people, and overall mental health and well-being. So these unresolved feelings from the past usually manifest in 7 distinct patterns of behavior in adulthood. You know how people say that things can scar you for life? Sometimes when things happen to us as children, these things are carried on into our adult years because we've not gotten any type of fix for it. Okay, we've not gotten any type of proper counseling. Sometimes we hold these emotions in ourselves. We try to deal with it by ourselves, and sometimes we just try to forget it and ignore it. And we bury these emotions deep within, and then when something happens, certain events occur, these things can trigger us. Okay, and they can trigger us. So with that all being said, whose birthday is it? Happy birthday, Vanessa, beloved. Happy solar return. And so now these patterns can be subtle and may be mistaken for personality traits. Some people think that's just who you are. That's just how you were wired. But that's really not who you are. That's just some of the effects of things that you're holding deep within that you haven't been able to let go of. But they're actually signs of unprocessed emotions and experiences from one's formative years. Now, recognizing these signs is critical. It's a very critical step towards healing and personal growth because you have to start to realize these things about yourself. First of all, before I continue, let me get ones in the chat for anyone who feels like you may be carrying around emotional baggage from childhood. Ones in the chat of anyone who feels like they may possibly be carrying around emotional baggage that they have been dealing with since childhood. Anyone had any type of traumatizing experiences as a child, abandonment issues, felt neglected, were abused? Okay, lots of ones in the chat. Yes, because this is very common. Don't think that you're all alone because many people go through this. Okay, many people go through this at the end of the day. And the first thing is addressing the issue. And when you address the issue and realize that there's something there that you need to work on, that's when you can start the healing process. Now, recognizing the signs is a critical step towards healing and personal growth. This is particularly crucial for parents as understanding and working through their own emotional baggage can lead to more effective parenting. You see, you may not be the best parents if, in fact, you are still dealing with your own childhood traumas and emotional baggage. And this is what I was talking about when I brought up Monique and the whole thing with her and her son. You know, Monique went through all of these things as a child, being abused, you know, and I don't just mean emotionally and mentally abused, but also had a family member, her own brother, you know, doing things to her that were inappropriate. And then her mother wasn't really there for her, and she never really had a good, wholesome relationship with her mother. So all of these things can affect the way you relate to others and how you, in fact, treat your own offspring someday. Because if you weren't taught to love, then how do you know how to give love? If you were never nurtured, how do you know how to nurture? And sometimes you learn as you go and learn as you grow, but sometimes still you need help in between. Okay? Because you sometimes can't figure these things out on your own. And you may think that you're doing a good job, an effective job, but you may not be. All right. And Jane says, sometimes when you address this issue with someone, they take it as an argument instead of them actively listening to what is being said in love. Then they shut you out and close their ears. Now, Jane, that's a very good point. This is absolutely true. This is absolutely true because you see, here's the thing. If a person has never experienced childhood trauma or they've never gone through these things, you know, they may not understand what you're saying. It may not make sense to them. They may think that you're just making excuses for your behavior. This is often what people tend to think, like in the case of Monique again. You know, a lot of people were going in on Monique and bashing her, which to me is the wrong thing to do. You know, it's never good to be judgmental when someone is dealing with something from the past that has been carried into their future. When someone is dealing with something that may have potentially scarred them for life. It's never good to do that. And if you haven't been through it, then who are you to judge at the end of the day? But the bottom line is you have to own these things. And you sometimes, like I said, have to get counseling. You need to sit down and talk to a healthcare professional, or a mental health professional. Okay. And sometimes, like you said, Jane, that when you're talking to people about this or a specific person, they may view it as you're arguing or making excuses and things like that. And that isn't always the case, though sometimes it may be the case depending upon the individual. Okay. Jane says, to them, you're talking a foreign language and they just don't understand it all. Exactly. And you see, here's the thing. That's why you have to be careful of who you share such things with, because everyone isn't capable of understanding. And then some people will look at you with a whole side eye or feel like you're, like I said, just making excuses for yourself. And then some people act like they're holier than thou, like they don't do anything wrong. And so therefore, they're quick to point out the flaws in others without even looking at the flaws in themselves, which is what a lot of people seem to have been doing as it pertains to Monique. Now, with that all being said, you want to get rid of this emotional baggage, learn how to deal with it so that you can be a more effective parent. Remember, parenting is something that we often learn as we go, okay, and as we grow. Everybody makes mistakes. Now, it allows for a shift from reactive responses based on past wounds to conscious decisions grounded in the present moment. Okay, so let's talk about these 7 behaviors that adults who hold on to childhood traumas and emotional baggage commonly display. And the goal for this discussion is to provide a roadmap, okay, to self-recognition, understanding, and offering the tools necessary for growth and healing. Because here's the thing. When you're going through this type of stuff, you don't even sometimes realize how you sound or how you're behaving until someone points it out. Okay? And very often you hold things in. But the best thing to do is to express yourself, to speak your thoughts, to speak how you feel. And if someone says things that trigger you back to this moment in time when you were being emotionally neglected, abandoned, abused, or whatever, then you need to speak on it. You need to let them know. Because if you don't speak up for yourself and don't let people know, well, they'll continue to do it. And likewise, if you've done or said things and to friends, family, or whomever, they should bring that to your attention. Because if people don't let you know, then you may not see your behavior. Because like it says, the psychologists say that people unknowingly engage in these behaviors. It's not like they're purposely doing it, but sometimes unbeknownst to them, people do certain things. And if you don't address it, or if no one addresses it to you, then you will continue in that behavior. Now, the first one is frequent overthinking. Now, how many of you are guilty of overthinking? Because I know I am. I have always been an overthinker. Jay says, unfortunately, this can be family, and you have to make the hard choice to distance yourself. This is absolutely true, beloved. Absolutely true again. Now, one common behavior displayed by adults that are carrying childhood emotional baggage is frequent overthinking. This can manifest as a constant analysis of past events, conversations, and decisions, often leading to feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. Now, this overthinking tendency stems from past experiences where the individual felt misunderstood, criticized, or invalidated. And as a child, they may have developed a habit of overanalyzing their own actions and words in an attempt to avoid negative outcomes, okay? Because they may feel like they're going to be criticized. And so they have a constant wall up. They're, always on edge, and they're very sensitive. The least little thing can offend them in some cases, just depending on what type of emotional baggage they're carrying. Now, as adults, this behavior persists when the initial threat is no longer present. So even if that problem or issue or the person who was doing these things to you that led you to feel this way, well, even if that's no longer there, you can still have these feelings, okay? These things become instilled and ingrained in you as a child. That's why I always tell you guys that children are very impressionable. We must mind how we speak to our children. We must fill them with light and love and laughter and joy rather than speaking down on them and criticizing them. And when they do something that is not correct, like it's, making a bad grade at school, rather than focusing so much so on the bad that they did or that they didn't do a better job, just remind them that, hey, you'll do better next time. You can do better. You can bring this grade up. It's not the end of the world, but you need to work harder, to achieve your goals. Just talk to them like that, giving them more hope and encouragement rather than criticism, and discouragement. So to combat this tendency, you have to learn to challenge irrational thoughts and focus on solutions rather than dwelling on problems. See, that's what I do. I try not to dwell on problems, okay? No matter what the problem is, I try not to dwell on it. I just move past it. Okay, it's done. It's in the past. I can't go back and change it. But what I can do is change my behavior. Okay, I can change my behavior. I can change the way I react to certain things. I can change the way I allow certain things to affect me. That's what I can do. But what's already done is done. It's no use crying over spilled milk. Now set time limits for decision making and distract yourself with enjoyable activities. If possible, seek support from trusted friends or a therapist to gain perspective and break the cycle. That's what you do. Trusted friends. And you have to break the cycle. And trusted friends, let me tell you something, because all friends are not trusted friends. You see, people who give you constructive criticism, those are trusted friends. People who call you out on your BS, those are trusted friends. People who hold you accountable, those are trusted friends. Some people won't hold you accountable unless and until you hold them accountable. Then they'll start telling you all the stuff that you've done. But when you do something, when anyone does something, when you have boundaries, you should let people know right away when they cross them. When people say or do things that make you feel a certain type of way or uncomfortable, you should address it right then and there in the moment. Don't hold things inside. Because I was always taught that when you hold things in, one day you'll just explode. Okay, you may just explode. So I'm a firm believer in addressing the situation as the situation comes. Like my mother used to tell us when we were kids, if she take us somewhere and any of us misbehave, she's not going to wait till she gets home to get on your behind. She's going to get on your behind right then and there where you are. Because by the time we get home, you may not even remember what you did. Because maybe you weren't even meaning to do something. Maybe you weren't really paying attention. So she's going to get on you right then and there to let you know. Okay? So that's how you have to do. You have to address things head on. The second thing is difficulty in establishing boundaries. Now, this behavior is often seen in adults with unresolved emotional baggage from childhood, and it's a struggle with establishing and maintaining boundaries. Okay, this difficulty can appear in various relationships, including familial, romantic, and professional connections. Individuals carrying childhood emotional baggage might have grown up in environments where their boundaries were consistently ignored or disrespected. And then that can cause them to ignore and disrespect other people's boundaries. That's why if you're a person who does this, maybe you have emotional baggage and this happened to you as a child and now you're doing that to others, well, the best thing for them to do is to let you know. And if someone's doing it to you, the best thing for you to do is to let them know. You're doing yourself a disservice otherwise. You see, sometimes we have to teach people how to treat us. And if we don't want to tolerate and put up with certain things, then we need to tell the person who's offending us that they're doing so. Now, after you tell them and they do it again, well, then now you have to say, well, maybe they just don't care. But if they don't say anything and if you don't say anything and the behavior continues, well, then you have no one to blame but yourself. Okay? Now, as a result, they may find it challenging to assert their needs and or may even feel guilty for doing so. Recognizing this behavior is the first step towards change. Now, keep in mind that setting boundaries is key to keeping your mental and emotional health in balance and in check. Boundaries are your personal guardrails that protect you from unnecessary stress and emotional drain. I have boundaries, okay? I don't know about you guys, but I have boundaries, definitely. And when someone crosses them, I'm going to let you know right then and there. I'm not going to wait. I don't need to talk about it a week from now. I don't need to talk about it tomorrow. I'm going to talk about it right then and there, okay? If you cross one of my boundaries, I'm going to let you know right there. Okay, and that's what we all should do. Because like I said, if you don't stop a person, then they may just continue with that behavior. Maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. But either way, you need to address it right then and there. Because otherwise, it continues to fester. Okay? It continues to fester. Hey, Nandy, beloved. And Jane said the key is to address it with love, either to yourself or the perpetrator, with love for yourself also. That's where it gets hard, and you may have to separate in order to heal yourself and recenter. Honey, you said a whole mouthful, and I absolutely agree. Okay, address it with love. Because like I said, sometimes people don't realize what they're doing and saying. Maybe they've done it so much so that it's just become an everyday thing to them. And often we don't see things about ourselves that other people on the outside looking in can see, because this is just who we are as far as we're concerned. So we don't see all of our flaws. Sometimes, this is why it's good to do self-reflection. Sometimes we have to sit with ourselves and reflect. And this is why when people come to you and say, well, you did this and I didn't like it, or you said that and I didn't care for it. When they do that, then you have to take that into consideration if it's someone you care about. Now, if it's someone who's irrelevant to you, you may not care or give it a second thought. But if it's someone that you have a relationship with and you care about, then you do want to self-reflect and say, okay, you know what? I was wrong. And then if you feel you were wrong, you apologize, and then you change the behavior. Because here's the thing. A lot of people do BS and then they apologize, but they don't change the behavior. When you're truly sorry, you not only apologize with words, but you change the behavior with your actions. Because remember, actions always speak louder than words. Okay? Nandy says, I had to work on that, addressing it right then and there, for fear of being further judged for overreacting or being too emotional. Not no more. Because after the umpteenth time of them doing it. Exactly. And see, here's the thing. And this is why it's good to address things right there in the moment. Because like I said, you said the umpteenth time of them doing it. So some people know they're being buttholes. Some people know they're being rude and obnoxious and disrespectful. Some people absolutely know this. Okay. But some people don't realize it because they've always behaved this way. Because maybe if they have emotional baggage, then that for them is a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism. Or maybe that's just the way they feel they need to carry themselves. But at the end of the day, yes, I agree. You have to address it right then and there. And then Nandy says, and you finally address it, they respond with, why didn't you say something back then? Continue. Exactly. Buckhorse DC says, I still check myself in the mirror. Poetic justice. Yes, we have to. We have to do self-inventory. We have to do self-reflection. We have to be willing to accept our flaws and own our mistakes. And this is how you take accountability. But some people don't want to take accountability. And I find these people tend to be Virgos in some cases. Now, if you're a Virgo, don't get offended. I'm not saying all Virgos. I'm just talking about the Virgos that I know personally. Very often don't want to take accountability. And in fact, they will make excuses for their own nefariousness and say, well, you did this, and so that's why I did this. Now it's tit for tat. That's where we are. And so at the end of the day, some people won't own what they've done. Instead, they'll bring up stuff that you've done. Okay? And that's usually what narcissists do. You see, narcissists will sit there and compile receipts on a person. They'll compile evidence of stuff that a person has done, and they won't say anything. They'll just keep adding up all the stuff and that they feel that you've done. And then when they do something and you say something, now they want to bring up all the stuff that you did when they could have brought it up a long time ago. At the end of the day, because had they brought it up in the first place, well, it likely wouldn't have continued. Okay? Buckhorse DC said, I'm an Aquarius. Not playing says, sounds like a Cancer. And now Nanny says, Virgos is Pisces' natural cosmic opposite queen. So Virgos tend to give us fever. Honey, yes, I absolutely know. Okay? Don't I know it? Don't I know it? Okay? Nanny says, if it's a Libra, check their natal chart. Their Mercury is likely in Virgo. That's obviously true too. Okay? Now, goes on to say they have the next one, the third thing is tendency to self-sabotage. Okay, now how many of you have done this? Because I have absolutely self-sabotaged before. Another behavior often exhibited by adults with childhood emotional baggage is a propensity for self-sabotage. This could be in the form of procrastination, self-destructive habits, or consistently making poor decisions that hinder their personal or professional growth. Now, I already told you all that I am a repeat offender when it comes to procrastination. Okay, absolutely. Repeat offender. Now, this tendency towards self-sabotage can originate from a deep-seated belief rooted in childhood experiences. That they are undeserving of success or happiness. They might consciously or subconsciously create obstacles to prevent them from achieving their own goals, and fear of failure or rejection. Okay, and some of this may sound repetitive because some of these things are also reminiscent of people who were not given positive reinforcement as children, which I talked about a few weeks ago. And if you didn't see that broadcast, please go back and watch. Now, to overcome your tendency to self-sabotage, start by identifying your patterns and triggers. Challenge negative beliefs, set achievable goals, seek support, and practice self-compassion. Okay, you have to practice self-compassion. Now, embrace positive coping strategies such as meditation and positive self-talk to break free from self-sabotage and foster personal growth. And some of this is easier said than done. I'm telling you, some of this is easier said than done. But again, you learn as you grow. And I always tell you that there's always room for improvement. Now, the fourth thing is a constant need for validation. And this is common among adults that are carrying around childhood emotional baggage. Okay, they want to be validated because they didn't get that as children. They may frequently seek approval and reassurance from others, often tying their self-worth to other people's opinions of them. Now, that's the problem I don't have, because I don't really worry about what other people think of me, because I always tell you guys, whatever somebody else thinks of me, it's none of my business, okay? Now, this behavior can be traced back to childhood experiences where their feelings and thoughts were invalidated or dismissed. As a result, they may feel a constant need to prove themselves and seek affirmation from others. Overcoming this behavior involves building self-confidence and learning to self-validate. It's about recognizing one's worth independently of external opinions and acknowledging that their value is inherent and not conditional. And the fifth thing is excessive fear of rejection. Now, this behavior is common among adults as well who carry around this emotional baggage from childhood. Okay, this fear can be so overwhelming that they avoid situations where there's a possibility of rejection, often leading to missed opportunities and unfulfilled potential. This fear of rejection often stems from childhood experiences where they felt rejected or abandoned. Okay, these experiences can leave deep emotional scars, leading to a heightened sensitivity to rejection in adulthood. Confronting this fear means grasping its root cause and then working on building resilience. It's about learning to see rejection not as a measure of one's worth, but as a part of life that everyone experiences at some point. I mean, everything's not going to always go in your favor. Sometimes there will be rejections, whether it's from a person you have interest in, a friend, a job opportunity, just different things. The sixth thing is holding on to grudges and resentment. Now, this behavior is often seen, okay, in these same people who have emotional baggage that they're carrying around from childhood. This behavior can lead to prolonged emotional distress and strained relationships. Well, here's the thing. How many of you feel like you hold a grudge? How many people feel like they hold a grudge? Because what I don't do is I don't hold a grudge. I try not to hold grudges because to me, the longer you hold a grudge, the heavier it gets. I'd rather just move on and either fix the problem or just forget the problem and let it go. I'm going to do one of the two. Either I'm going to try to fix it or I'm just going to let it go. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to walk around thinking about BS that I feel like someone did or said. Or if I did or said something and somebody doesn't want to forgive and forget, then I don't want to walk around dealing with that. So I choose not to. Okay? I absolutely choose not to. Now, Natty says, Queen, teach a class on that, rejections. Did you hear about the pretty young 19-year-old lady that was unalived in a BK bodega due to showing disinterest in a young guy? Harlem, there was a similar. No, I didn't hear about that, beloved, but I'll look into it. I didn't hear about that. You know, some people don't take rejection well. Honey, I'm like this. If you don't want to be bothered with me, I don't want to be bothered with you either. That's how that goes. All right. Okay. So, yeah, maybe I will talk about that on the upcoming broadcast, beloved. So Nanny says a young lady entered a liquor store to buy some wine and a young guy offered to pay for it. She politely declined and he attacked her. This is all crazy because at the end of the day, if she didn't want it, you know, maybe she refused it because she didn't want to give him the wrong idea. Because sometimes people do things for you and they do it with ulterior motives. And so maybe that's what she was trying to avoid. Now, if he attacked her, there's clearly something wrong with him. Now, in their childhood, these people who have these problems holding on to grudges and resentment, you know, that often stems from childhood, like I was saying, and they may have experienced situations where they felt wronged or mistreated, leading to lingering resentment. As adults, it can be challenging for them to let go of these feelings, leading to grudges that can last for years. Honey, that's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to think about anything for that long. I'm not going to think about it long enough to hold a grudge. Now, I know someone who clearly holds a grudge, and this person's a Virgo. This person is a Virgo, and they can hold a grudge literally for years. I've seen them do it. And in the midst of them doing it, I would say, well, you don't want to try to fix that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so much time has passed. Like, we were literally in college when it happened. And you're still mad. And they would say yes. So I just find it interesting. I'm not going to worry about anything that long. And see, here's the thing. One thing about holding a grudge is it only causes things to fester. It only causes things to fester. And see, this is why I feel like, you know, very often when people don't address things in the beginning or when someone first does something to offend them or whatever, well, that can cause that person that's holding it inside to hold a grudge. Okay? And they may not even realize it. But, you know, you can sit there and hold a grudge. And at the end of the day, then something small can escalate to something huge. Okay? Buckhorse DC said, I ain't going to stress, but that grudge is theirs. But that grudge is there. Okay? Nanny says, I don't hold a grudge. I just don't hold on to them anymore. And they construe that distance with a grudge. They can continue that distance with a grudge. Okay? Alice says, grudge can be getting them out of my life. Well, at the end of the day, if something doesn't suit your best interest, then it will behoove you to let it go. Okay, so with that all being said, like I said, some people hold grudges for years. I don't have time for that. That's low vibrational, and I'm trying to be positive, even though I'm not always positive, but for the most part, I try to be. And so I'm not going to sit there and hold grudges. I'm not even going to think about it. If you made me that mad, that would even be warranted, I'm just going to forget about you. Now, clearing the air and resolving misunderstandings can alleviate pent-up resentment. This is true. Clearing the air and resolving misunderstandings. And that, again, is why you should bring up things or when someone does something to offend you. It could be your boss at work said something that you didn't like. I remember one time I was working a job and I had the supervisor who was always saying crazy stuff. Now, he would say crazy stuff to certain people, and I was one of those people that he said something crazy to. Well, he would say this to certain people a myriad of times on a daily basis. He said something crazy to me one time, and I pulled him to the side, okay, away from everybody else, because I didn't want him to feel like I was embarrassing him or just calling him out or whatever. But I told him, I said, listen, you can't play with me like that. First of all, I don't know you like that, okay? We're co-workers. We're not friends. And so you cannot talk to me that way because I'm not going to stand for it. That's what I told him. But see, had I not said anything and he continued the behavior, then eventually I would have started to resent him. And then I would have started feeling like I have a grudge, you know, and then I would have been walking around with a chip on my shoulder. And then one day he would have said something else. And then it would have just been like a bubbling pot of boiling water where the lid flies off. Okay. And then I could have lost my job. So I just politely called him off to the side and told him how I felt about it. That's what I do. I tell people how I feel about certain things. Okay. Songwriter Sunny said, I never hate people. I mostly hate some behaviors. Right. Exactly. So Nanny says resentment can build to an explosion. Exactly. And resentment comes from, you can have resentment when someone is saying things to you that are disrespectful or things that you just don't like, and you don't address it. You just let them keep doing it. And then one day you just get fed up. I'm not going to wait till that day. I'm going to say something right then and there. Now, with that all being said, the seventh thing is a habit of suppressing emotions. See, I don't have that problem. I used to have that problem back when I was a teenager, but I learned, don't suppress your emotions. However I'm feeling, if you make me feel some type of way, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to address it. And likewise, I expect the same if I make anybody feel some type of way. Now, the final behavior we discussed is suppressing emotions, okay? A common trait among these people walking around with emotional baggage from childhood. These individuals may find it difficult to express their feelings openly, often choosing to internalize their emotions instead. I'm not internalizing. That's what I'm not doing, because that's not good for your mental health, and it can lead to frustrations, stress, resentments, and grudges, okay? This suppression can stem from childhood experiences when expressing emotions emotions led to negative consequences, or they were discouraged about things rather than encouraged. Over time, they learn to hide their feelings, leading to emotional suppression into adulthood. To overcome this habit, learn to practice expressing emotions in safe and supportive environments. This can involve journaling, talking to a trusted friend or therapist, or engaging in creative outlets like arts or music. And then, this is how you start the healing process, when you can get out of these behaviors, okay? Healing from emotional baggage from childhood is a complex but rewarding journey. Now, it involves acknowledging your past experiences, understanding the impact that it has had on your life thus far, and making conscious efforts towards personal growth and healing. Because, here's the thing. Everyone is not equipped with the mindset that they need to move forward and get past these childhood traumas. Everyone isn't equipped with that. Sometimes you get the vital things that you need to help you deal with it better by going to a therapist. Yeah, some people don't want to go to a therapist, but maybe you can talk to a trusted friend or an older person who can help you, navigate your way through that journey. But you have to be able to get past the childhood trauma. Because here's the thing. I told you all before that people who were traumatized during childhood, they often tend to make their decisions based off of their trauma. And so that can lead to them not making the best decisions. Okay? That can lead to them making poor choices. And so the first thing is to recognize the behavior, understand and understand it, take accountability for yourself, self-reflect, and then work on being more self-aware in the future. And it's crucial to seek professional help if you feel like you need it. Okay, therapists and counselors are powerful guidance tools, and they give you strategies to help you process the healing or to get through the healing process. And they can also help you to unpack and process past traumas, and this will be a safe and supportive environment. Sometimes it's not always good to overshare things with certain people. Sometimes we tell friends about things, and sometimes it can backfire on you. Sometimes oversharing is just a bad idea. Okay? Please pay attention. Now, finally, remember that it's never too late to heal from childhood emotional baggage and trauma. Okay? It's a journey towards a healthier and happier you. The key is to take the first step, acknowledging the need for healing and taking conscious action towards achieving it. Okay? And don't be too hard on yourself, because none of us are perfect. We all are, should be actively working on self-improvement, being more self-aware, and making better and wiser decisions. Because like I said, there's always room for improvement. Okay? Alice says, when I went, my family blamed it on my kids. My family blamed it on my kids, only made me more angry. Yeah, I can imagine that would make you angry, okay? They blamed it on your kids. So what are they trying to say? You know, you may feel like they were questioning your mothering skills if they're blaming it on your kids. And then here's the thing. Bookhorse DC says self-improvement. Absolutely. Self-improvement is absolutely what we need. Okay? So with that all being said, I'm going to show you all these videos, like I said, with a few TikTokers that I follow, speaking on these different behaviors exhibited by people who have emotional baggage. And, you know, here's the thing. Sometimes people with emotional baggage, and I've been guilty of this too, sometimes people who carry emotional baggage from childhood dump their problems on other people. They may sit there and tell other people the problems that happened to them and how it made them feel and things that they went through and all of that. But you can't do that to everybody. You can't share that information with everybody, because at the end of the day, you should only share that information with someone who's going to help you deal with it, or someone who can encourage you as in how to deal with it. Okay? Because sometimes, like I said, people don't understand, especially if they never went through it. Like someone who grew up in a household with an alcoholic parent. Well, if you didn't grow up in a household with someone who was an alcoholic, a parent who was alcoholic, you may not understand their plight. Okay, if you didn't grow up in a household with someone who was on drugs, you may not understand the plight of someone who did. If you didn't grow up in a household where you were verbally or physically abused, you may not understand that. Okay, and remember, like I always tell you guys, our parents, you know, did the best that they could do for most of us. Some of us had nefarious parents, clearly. But I'm just saying that for the most part, parents, I'm sure a majority of parents do the best that they can do. And nobody's perfect. And at the end of the day, we learn, if we're smart, we learn from our mistakes so that we don't have to repeat them. Okay? Jay says, yes, they use other people as trash cans that they can project their own negative feelings onto. Absolutely. Absolutely, beloved. Okay? And so with that all being said, Nandy says, Queen, the book, Leaving the Trap, How to Escape the Evil Reincarnation Cycle by Miss I. Green. Please, let's discuss it. A book club. She wrote that too much sex can reincarnate into a dog. What? That sounds interesting. I've never heard of that, beloved. Okay, Buckhorse DC said, I've seen it all. I'm from the hood. No, okay. Buckhorse DC, thanks for sharing. I'm not. All right? I'm not. Okay, not that there's anything wrong with being from the hood. I'm just not from the hood. But with that all being said, I'm going to share these videos. Like up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Hey Jim, why do other people dump emotional baggage on others?
You know, I think everybody vents from from time to time, and that's actually a positive thing. It can be a positive thing, offloading frustration and anxiety, stress, but it can also turn into something we think of as trauma dumping, when people inappropriately dump, especially traumatic stuff, or when somebody dumps their emotional baggage on somebody who, first of all, hasn't requested that, often if it's inappropriate, and the person that you're dumping stuff on isn't really prepared to handle all of that stuff. When it's unsolicited and it's oversharing, can actually be a problem.
Okay, so please pay attention. He too said that oversharing can be a problem. And I absolutely agree. Okay, I absolutely agree. And sometimes oversharing can come back to bite you in the arse. Please pay attention. Okay?
A long time ago. And you just have to, ever been triggered by a memory, an old feeling, something that happened a long time ago, and you just have to cram it back down? Well, you want to know what that is? That is your body trying to get rid of the garbage that you're storing in it. You have been avoiding the message of the emotion. And so the fastest way to get rid of it is this. Just close your eyes and isolate the emotion from the memory. That's what gives that memory the sting, is the emotion. So what you want to do is say, this happened 5 years ago and I feel so embarrassed. So you're feeling shame, you're feeling embarrassment, you're feeling regret, you're feeling whatever, you name it. You just sit there and go, okay, I am feeling shame, 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 shame. And you feel the shame. You don't think about the moment at all. Because if you think about the moment, you get it tangled up again. So you want to untangle it by just pulling that feeling out, naming it, telling yourself what you are feeling, and then say, I can handle this. And say it over and over and over and over and over again. I can handle this, I can handle this, until it goes away. It takes usually less than a minute, but sometimes up to 90 seconds. You don't want to think about the event. You only want to name the emotion. Try it. It takes some of the sting out of the little moments. Don't use it on big trauma. It takes the sting out of some of those little moments so you can feel lighter and better.
All right.
Actually, because I was spoken down to all the time, y'all. Imagine a little girl that was supposed to be loved, hugged, cherished, affection, that didn't get that. They got the opposite. So imagine me as an adult, and you coming to me telling me, oh, you're not this, you're not that, or you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that, you're not this. So what that did to me was I had a trigger point. Once you tell me I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not good enough, I'm this and that, something will flare up me and anger will come out. So my stronghold was rejection. Remember, I spoke this earlier, if you guys wasn't on. I was rejected from the womb. My mom was trying to abort me. She wasn't able to abort me. A result in that, I was born a premature baby in and out of the hospital the first year of my life. Okay, guys? So rejection was one of my strongholds that I had. But the rejection was the root of it. The root of the problem was rejection. Everything else was unforgiveness, resentment, anger. Hey, anger. I don't even want to talk about it. I gotta give y'all. If y'all read, listen. If you guys, because I got some people that's on here that knew me since I was a child. Man, anger. I used to do some crazy stuff. When I used to get mad, I used to black out. That's how my anger was out of control. Now that I'm a Christian, I really think.
Okay, so that was interesting, and I'm sure you all know that she meant trigger, not ticker. Now, Prince of Paraphernalia says, Queen, I need to purchase a consultation from you. Okay, beloved, that's fine. Send me an email about it, and then I'll let you know what days I have available to do it, and it's $30, okay? All right, so with that all being said, let's listen to this last video.
Okay, so how to release emotional baggage that you have with somebody or even with a situation. So one of the first things that needs to be done is to forgive them and forgive yourself. So you can do that with different outlets. I'm a writer at heart, so I like to write. So I often just write them a letter and tell them that I forgive them. But it has to be deeper than just saying I forgive you. You have to write or find whatever outlet works for you. It can be a video, talking to somebody, meditating, whatever it is, as long as the intention is to forgive them. So for me, like I said, it's writing. So let's say that you do write a letter of to forgive them. Write a letter and really outline every single thing that they made you feel. So tell them as if you were talking to them. Write them a letter and be like, Dear XYZ, listen, you did this to me and it made me feel this way, and you did this and that to me and it made me feel this way. And then after that, always say, but I forgive you because I understand where you're coming from and I understand why you were put in my life. And that's key because energetically and as universally speaking, we're all put on this earth to meet certain people and to meet certain circumstances in order for us to reach our soul contract or finish our soul contract. Whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant to this process. This is what I believe in. This is how the universe works in my reality. So you do have to tell them and be like, okay, listen, I understand why you came and you did this in my life because you needed to teach me this. I needed to learn this. You needed to go through this for yourself. I need to go through that for myself. And when you put it from a perspective of empathy and of understanding, it takes away not the trauma, but the emotional connection that you have to that situation. Even if it's negative emotion, because you understand that, listen, okay, this person came into my life to teach me this and I learned it. So therefore, there's really no more reason for me to be attached to that person or to be connected to that person in any way, shape or form because I learned my lesson. And you can even write it in the letter or do it in your ritual. Like if I like to do little witchy rituals, but that's my own thing. I can talk about it more if you guys want to, but like when I do my own little ritual, I like to say like, listen, I thank you for everything that you taught me, but I release you. Like all our soul contracts on all timelines are done, and we are no longer like connected in this timeline because I learned what I needed to learn. And as you do this, like there's emotions that might come up. You might start crying, you might start raging, you might want to start reaching out to that person and tell them off. Like, it's okay, let the emotions run, and like literally write every single thing that you feel. Every single thing that you know and that other people might not know, you have to write it down. You have to say it in that video. You have to do whatever you can to get those emotions out. Nobody's gonna judge you. And of course, you have to be honest with yourself as well. You have to be honest of the things that you allowed as well in that relationship or in that connection. And you have to forgive yourself for that too. And you have to write it in the letter too. You have to tell your little self or your past self, hey, little Sarah, like, I forgive you as well for accepting these things, for going back, for allowing these things, for trusting him or not trusting him, or whatever it is. You have to forgive yourself as well. Once you have forgiveness in your heart and understanding through empathy, every connection that you have and every situation that you have can be created from a place of detachment rather than full attachment or codependency. And that's one of the first steps of releasing any emotional baggage that you have with that person. Because we think often that emotional baggage is just like, oh, I'm thinking of them. But you're thinking of them, it's fine. But what is the emotion that comes with that thinking? When you think about them, what emotion do you have? Do you feel sad? Do you feel regret? Or do you just feel thankful? And be like, I hope they're doing well. And that's where you want to get to. That's the detachment you want to get to, where you think about them and it doesn't bring up a negative emotion or not a negative emotion, because there's no negative emotions, but extreme emotions that make you react. You don't want to have that. You want to be detached and be like, okay, I'm thinking of you. Listen, it sucks what happened, but thank you and sending you love. That's what you want to get to. And again, the first part of the forgiveness is the first part again. And then that's how you're telling basically energetically the universe that you're ready to let go of that person or that situation. And then you have to let the universe do its thing. It is the hardest thing, because having faith in the universe or in God, whoever you believe in, that things are going to work out just by writing a letter or by burning a letter or by doing a little ritual, that's the hardest part. But you have to start working on it, because we're all energy beings. So in order for us to release anything energetically attached to somebody else, you have to have faith that what you're doing with intention is going to work. So write that letter of forgiveness, forgive them, and every single day moving forward, you have to tell yourself, whenever there's a thought that comes, you have to program your brain to, instead of reacting, you just stop the thought. Literally, you can even tell yourself, I'm not thinking about this, and you're just saying, thank you, I love you, sending you love. And that's it. And it's just reprogramming your mind after a while, but at least the emotions are going to be put on paper. You can even burn the paper. I like to do, like I said, a little witchy ritual. I just burn the paper so that energetically I really cut cords with the person or the situation. And then after that, my brain is more clear. It's not an easy process, especially if you have a really deep connection with that person, or if it's a parent especially, because like I've gone through it. I know what it's like, and it can even take more than one forgiveness letter. You can start with the first one, and then there's one layer of that emotion, of that baggage that is taken out, but then you have to do another one and another one and another one, depending on how deep your connection is to that person or how deep that trauma is. Show yourself grace and just start. Small little steps is going to give the universe the message that you're ready to start releasing, and then the universe is going to give you some opportunities for you to be able to release it fully. You just have to take the first step. I love you. You got this.
Okay, so I really appreciate what that young lady said. I really like all of their talking points, her specifically, because when she's talking about writing a letter, well, sometimes you need to write that letter to yourself. Sometimes you need to forgive yourself, because I told you before that sometimes we're our own worst critics and we judge ourselves too harshly. Okay, just know that everyone makes mistakes. You're not the first, won't be the last. And if you've done something to offend someone, all you can do is apologize and then change the behavior. Okay, that's what you can do. And then if someone offends you, you should let them know right away. Don't wait, because like I said, if the longer you just hold it in and internalize it, all it does is it festers. And then when it starts to fester, it just makes the problem worse. And then when something happens and it hits this pivotal moment or point, there's a breaking point, well, then things can escalate out of control. Okay? And so with that all being said, Nandy said, that's a very good price. Okay, I'm not sure if that was a part of another conversation. But, so with that all being said, oh, you talking about the price for the consultation. Thank you, beloved. Okay, so with that all being said, Songwriter Sunny says, at a young age, I learned that in a world without maternal cushioning, the only thing possible to shift any pain is accept it and understand why. You'll get to love yourself from being a master of it. I absolutely agree. And here's the thing. People who weren't loved as children, who weren't shown love, who weren't nurtured and shown affection, and who weren't given positive reinforcements, well, sometimes these people have a low self-esteem, and they have low self-worth, and they don't feel worthy, and they engage in all of these 7 behaviors that I just discussed. Okay, and so that's why it's very important. If you feel like you're still suffering from some type of trauma from childhood, some type of emotional baggage you're still holding on to and carrying around, it would behoove you to try to work through getting over these things so that you are not self-sabotaging, and so that you're not destroying relationships, and so that you're a better parent to your children if you have them, and a better friend to friends if you have them, and things of that nature. Overall, a better person. So that's the best thing to do. With that all being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in. Please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and we'll be right back on here tomorrow. Okay, right back on here to do it again tomorrow. So until next time, beloveds, I will talk to you all again soon. Remember, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives.